So here's what we're going to do today, thanks to a snowstorm. I want to go over some of the tools available to you within MyMathLab that should help you with the course, and then explain a little bit about how to do graphs. I'm going to do it within the MyMathLab software, and then I'm going to go over how to do this with Excel. Alright, so we're going to open up your course in MyMathLab. Now over here there's a bunch of options. We've seen some of these before. Alright, we've used the textbook and so forth. The study plan I've mentioned, your grade book. But what I'm interested in looking at right now is where it says multimedia library. So if I open this up, now you have to choose a chapter. Since we've been working on chapter 2, I'm going to choose chapter 2. I'm not going to restrict it to a section. And then you have all of these things available to you. They're Java applets, multimedia textbook, that's the textbook we use in class, PowerPoints, video lectures, blah blah blah, all of that. I'm just going to select all of them because I want you to see everything that's available. Alright, now this is chapter 2. These are the multimedia library tools available to you. Now notice there is a PowerPoint for chapter 2. I don't use them in class because I'm not a huge PowerPoint fan, but it's there if you want to look through it. Over here, okay, these are the sections from the textbook. Again, this is the same multimedia textbook that I use in class. There are video lectures. There's a video lecture on 2.1. There's a video lecture on 2.2. Those are the two sections I covered last class. Right? There are also additional videos to do with specific examples within the textbook and the homework problems. Alright, so there's a lot of them. Okay, there's a whole bunch of them for all 3 sections of chapter 2. Alright, if you're having any difficulty understanding what I talk about in class, I strongly recommend you come here. You know, if you didn't get the part on qualitative data from me, and you've already looked through the book yourself, try the video lecture. It's the author of the book giving the lecture, so they're worth looking at. Alright, but in particular, since we're talking about data organization and graphs, I want to look over here, StatCrunch. Alright, StatCrunch is an online tool for analyzing statistical data. There is a version of StatCrunch available within the MyStatLab part of this class. So if I click on that, alright, notice what comes up. Alright, I get something that looks a lot like an Excel spreadsheet, which I actually have an Excel spreadsheet behind here because I'm going to show you some stuff on that also. Alright, over here is a list of chapter, section, and problem numbers. Now if I come back over to this, I already opened the book and I opened it to 2.1. Alright, you'll notice some of the problems here have this little disk next to them. Alright, that little disk means that there is data available. If you bought the paper copy of the textbook, it came with a media disk, CD-ROM, DVD-ROM probably. And on that disk is data, right? Different data sets for different problems so that you can work online with them. The problem that we did in class, one of the problems that we did in class was this blood group problem. This blood group problem has its data available. Right? If you didn't buy the paper copy of the book, the data is available over here in the StatCrunch section. So this is 2.1 problem 24. So if I go to 2.1 problem 24 and I click on that, I'll get a little loading wheel, and then here is all of the data from that set. Alright, and it's in a form that we can do some simple work with it here in StatCrunch, or I can move it over to Excel with a simple copy and paste operation and do some more interesting things. So I'm going to show you a couple of things with StatCrunch first. Alright, so one of the things we did with this was to make a bar graph. So to make a bar graph, what you need to do is, I'm going to page all the way down here because I need to highlight all this data. The first one's already highlighted. Go down to the last one, hold down your Shift key, and then click, and you'll see the entire data set is now highlighted if I go back up. All right, all the way up there. All you need to do in StatCrunch to get a simple graph is to click Graph, and let's say we want to do a bar graph. All right, with data. All right, type that. Now I'm not going to change any of the other settings. I'm going to leave everything the way it is. Anything that's listed optional, I'm just going to leave blank. And I'm going to hit compute, and notice what I get there is a bar graph. Same bar graph that I had in class. Now the only difference between this bar graph and the one I did in class was I had the numbers written in. Alright, so if I go here to options and to edit, one of the options here is value above bar. So I'm actually going to click that and I'm going to recompute it. And now I've got the values written in above the bar. All right, so down and dirty, really quick bar graph. There's not a whole lot more you can do with it. You can't make it look pretty. You can't change the type of bars. You can't make it be a sideways bar graph instead of a vertical bar graph. We'll do all that with Excel. Right. Okay, so let's see. Pie chart is the other one. Alright, so I could do a pie chart with the data. I want the blood type data. And again, I'm going to leave everything that I don't need to change there. Alright. And notice that this gives me a nice color scheme on the graph. It gives me a table over here. Alright, it did write the different blood types in, but it also did something that the other one didn't do. It gave me the percentages. Alright, so this is a nice touch for the pie chart, that it also gives you the percentages. Alright, so when you need a quick bar graph or a quick pie chart, you can use StatCrunch to do that. Right, now once you have it, you need to either save it. Alright, you can save it and it'll save it off to your disk. You can copy it, right, if you want to copy it and paste it into another document. Alright, you can do that. You can print it, you can download it. Alright, there's any number of choices here that you can play with. Alright, for right now, I'm just going to close it. And I'm going to close this. Alright, now notice what happened here when I did that. Alright, it gave me a little 2 up here. I had a 1 and then a 2. Alright, the graphs themselves have not disappeared. They are available right here, hidden. Alright, bar plot with data, pie chart with data. So I can bring them back anytime I want. Alright. Alright, so for categorical data, you can do that quickly. Alright, it's very simple. It's not very versatile. You can't make it look pretty. You can't make it maybe fit into a scheme that you're working with. Alright, all of that is going to be done with Excel. Alright, so that was one set of data we did. Now the other set was in chapter 2.2. And now I can't pull this one in because it's within the text, but I'm going to go to the problem set at the end. Once I get there. Unfortunately, I can't preload this, so excuse me for a minute here while I click through this. I don't know what page it's on. Alright, so problem set at the end. Let's find a good data set that is not already... Here's one. Alright. Alright, so problem 34 and 2.2, the waiting times for a number of customers at a table. Alright, at a restaurant. Okay. Again, it's got a disk next to it. That means the data is available in StatCrunch. So this is 2.2 number 34. So if I come back over here, 2.2 number 34, loading, there is my data here. Alright. Now, the one thing that this can do that Excel cannot do out of the box is a histogram. Alright, so I go and I highlight my data just like I did before, hit graph, and histogram. Now again, all I want to do is tell it the variable that I want, so I'm going to click on wait time. Everything else is optional. Alright, so I'm not going to do anything else right now. I'm just going to hit compute. Alright, so what I get is a basic histogram. Now, I don't know anything about this histogram in terms of class width. I can make estimates and things like that. But if I go back in and hit edit, alright, I can give it a starting value and I can give it a class width. So I can go ahead and I can compute my class width like we did in class and say I want to have 7 categories. I find my highest value, my lowest value, find the difference, divide by 7, round that up, and I can tell it that's what I want my class width to be. All right. I can also give it a starting value. Maybe I don't want to start at the lowest value. Like we did in class, maybe I want to start at the lowest whole number value. Or maybe I want to start at 0. Okay, so you can pick your start value there. I can also tell it, just like the other one, I know I saw it here somewhere. Alright, I can give it a color scheme. I can label my axes. Alright, I can... no, it's only one page, so it's not really an issue here. I can show the values above the bar. That's what I was looking for. Alright, so again, just like I did in class, you can put those values in up there. Alright, so again, this gives you a nice, fast histogram. It's a little more difficult to edit it, to change things. You have to go in and do it manually, but it's there. Alright, so everyone in class has access to the software that will allow you to do this quickly. Okay. Alright, so let's get rid of StatCrunch. Well, actually, no, I don't want to get rid of StatCrunch yet. I want to go back to my data here, my blood group data. Okay, so I'm going to put the textbook away. I'm going to take my blood group data and I'm going to pull it into Excel. Alright, so I'm going to do that again by highlighting the entire data set, hold down Shift, hit the last one. And then to copy it, you're either going to do Control Copy if you're on a PC or a Chromebook, or Command Copy if you're on a Mac like I am. Pull up Excel. I already had Excel up. Pick a starting point. I'm going to put my data right there. And then either Control V or Command V to paste the data into Excel. So notice now, that entire data set is now part of Excel. I can now do whatever I want with it. Okay. So let's do some things with it. All right, so the first thing I think I want to do is group this up into a frequency table. All right, because a frequency table is handy to look at the data, just like we saw in class. Now I can't just highlight it. There's no button to click to say frequency table. I have to actually do this by hand. Alright, so I'm going to use a counting technique, but I'm not going to use the one we did in class because Excel will count for me. I just have to tell it what to do. Alright, so I'm going to label this blood group. And I'm going to make the column a little wider. Blood group and frequency, so I'll just call that F. Okay, so I'm going to label my blood groups A, B, O, AB. Like that. And if you've never used Excel before, it's easy. You just type. Alright, now I'm going to highlight this. Now, what I want Excel to do... Wait, something's not right there. B, O, A, B. That's better. Okay, so now what I want Excel to do is I want Excel to count all the A's. Now, rather than my going through and counting all the A's like we did in class or doing a tally, something like that, I can have Excel do the counting for me. There is a command called COUNTIF. Now, the way you put a formula into Excel is to first hit the equal sign. That tells Excel that whatever follows is a calculation and not text. So I'm going to type COUNTIF. Now, I use COUNTIF a lot. Because I use COUNTIF a lot, it comes up here under most recently used. That's not necessarily going to be the case. You might just get these two. Alright, so click on COUNTIF. Now notice here, it tells you the format of the command. The first thing you have to give it here is the range. Now the range is where the data is. So I'm going to click on here, and I'm just going to drag down all the way to the bottom of the data. I have to go all the way down here. And stop it right there. Alright, that's just a matter of holding down the mouse key and dragging. All right, so now when I come back up here, you'll notice this is the format for the range of data. Column A, cell 3 to cell 52. Hit a comma. And then I want to tell it that I want to count the A's, and because A is text, not a value, I'm going to use quotes. I go quote A, close quote, and then just hit enter. All right, and there I have 18 A's. Now I just want to repeat that for all of those categories. Now, just a side note here, if you have a lot of categories, you might not want to keep typing COUNTIF, 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 and filling it in. There is a way to copy and paste a formula into a cell and then just edit it. All right, now you have to be careful. Look up here in the formula bar. All right, you have to be careful with this because if I copy the formula from cell 4 to cell 5, it will change my starting and ending points. Because I copied it down one cell, it will change my starting and ending points down one cell. So I don't want it to do that. Since I don't want it to do that, I'm going to come in here. All right, and in front of the row header, I'm going to put a $sign. And what that does is it freezes the row. If I wanted to freeze the column, I would put it in front of the A. All right, so that, whoop, hang on a second. Just did something stupid there. Okay. Hit enter. All right, and it doesn't change that. But now when I watch how the cursor changes here. Okay, I'm going to come over here. See how the cursor changed? Now I can drag this down here. All right, now the one thing you want to make sure is that they all say 18. Okay. All right, so now all I have to do is come back up here and say B. This one has to be O. I'm just highlighting that, changing it to O. And the last one is AB, so all I need to do is add in a B. And there we go. There's the frequency. All right, so with 4, it wouldn't have been that hard to retype COUNTIF and then the thing COUNTIF, COUNTIF. If I had, 25 categories, wouldn't want to do it that way. So that's why that's a handy thing to know. So now I'm going to move over here. And let's look at the different charts we can do. Now the chart is actually being done with this. Okay. All right, so if I click up here on charts, now notice I've got all these fun charts I can play with. Now I can do 2 different types of bar graphs. I can do a column graph or I can do a row graph. All right, if we do the column graph, again, you get into the column graph, and now look at all these different column graphs you can get. Again, it's all going to be for your aesthetic for your presentation. If you're trying to make everything look nice and fancy, you might want to do cones. All right. If you don't care about that, you might want to do just something plain. All right, so come back over here, highlight this again. All right, maybe just straight out columns. All right, I can do straight out columns. I can change the colors, I can change the formatting, I can change all sorts of stuff right here with the layout. All right, I have all of these things that I can play with. Format. I can make I can make different effects on here. I can have the bars glow in different ways. I can do all sorts of stuff. Okay. The other thing I can do is make a pie chart. Alright, so if I click on pie chart, again, a bunch of different ones. Basic ones are plain pie chart and an exploded pie chart. You can also do a 3D pie chart. Alright, so I can do a regular pie chart right there. Or, let's move this out of the way. Let's move this one over here. I can do a 3D pie chart. Make it look all fancy that way. Alright, so there's all sorts of different effects I can do. Make it look nice, use different different techniques. You can get even fancier here and do an exploded pie chart. All right, again, all to what sort of point are you trying to make? All right, so Excel is good for this type of categorical data. Unless you purchase a separate add-on pack, it will not do histograms. All right, so you can use StatCrunch for the histograms. All right, or you can use a website that I really, really like. It's called Shodor, SHODOR.com. And that's not what I wanted. I think it's .org. Sorry. Shodor.org. Nope, I guess that is it. Okay. Oh, here we go. Activities and lessons. All right, so we've got interactive. Don't worry about the middle school, high school thing. And they changed their sites. All right, interactive. Where is, here we go, activities. Interactive activities, here we go. All right. All right, so basically what this is a whole different, for every branch of mathematics. All right, we're interested in particular in statistics. So I'm going to come over here to statistics. Now, again, a lot of this stuff, we haven't gotten anywhere near being able to cover a lot of what's listed here. All right, we will. All right, when we get into probabilities, a lot of this stuff is going to make more sense. All right, but what I'm interested in right here is a histogram. So I'm going to click on that. Now, the nice thing about this site, now it has some data preloaded, so I'm just going to work with the data that they have preloaded. It's a bunch of SAT scores. Right? Now, the nice thing about this is, I think I mentioned in class, this has this nice little slider. All right, and what this slider does, notice what's happening right here with the interval size. That's the class size. All right, you can see as I make the class size larger or smaller how it affects the histogram. So you can basically set your class size. You can see how the different class sizes work with this. All right. If I come all the way down here and I make my class size 1, you can see what I was talking about in class about the data becoming too noisy. And if I come over to this side, the larger I make my class, you see how much information I'm losing as I make my class larger. So there's a sweet spot. There's always that butter zone for your class size. All right, you might want it, depending on how much information you want to show, you know, right around here is probably about good. All right, and you can see where the spike is, and you can see where the tail is. You can change your interval to be whatever you want it to be. If you want your interval size to be a whole number rather than these decimals, let's say I want it to be 50. All right, I can type 50 in there and then update interval, and you'll see what happens. If I want to see what happens if I make it 100, all right, there it is at 100. All right, or like I said, you can use the slider to just play with it until you get something that looks close to what you need for your presentation. All right, once you have everything set the way you want it to be set, you can, this is just an image at this point. All right, so you can also do things like change the title, right? This little title bar here, I can change that to whatever I want, and then just click Update Data. Okay. If you right-click, one of the options is to save the image. All right, so if you say Save Image As, you'll be able to save it wherever you want. All right, if I save it to my desktop, let's call it SAT. Save it to my desktop. Okay, it actually popped up on my other screen, which I don't have under here. But it did show up on my desktop. In fact, if I drag it over here to this one. Okay, there's the file that just saved. All right. I have a two-screen system, so it saved it on the main screen, not the screen I'm recording it on. I can then take this and I can drag it into, let's move that down. Whoop, left Stack Crunch open. I can drag it into an Excel spreadsheet. Let's make a new spreadsheet here, so this one's getting crowded. And it will drag in as an image. I could drag it into a Word document. If I had a Word document going that I was using to make a report, I could drag it into the Word document as an image. If I'm using Google Sheets or I'm using the Mac options, which escape me at the moment, the names of them, I can drag it in there. So it's a very, very handy web tool. Get it back up here. All right, it's a very handy web tool. Plus, there are a lot of other options for statistics. And that just went all the way back to the beginning, didn't it? All right, wait, statistics that I can do, including bar graphs and pie charts and things like that. All right, and they all have those nice little sliders on them, so you can play around with the different types. All right. Excuse me. All right, so I think that's pretty much it, what I was planning on covering. I guess take a look at the video, and if you have any questions, we'll talk about it next class.